and Yan will agree with this, of course. When she started her blog, yours was one of the first comments on the blog, and I actually used it a bit in the separate chapter when you say it's so surprising to have an aria in Czech in a Malaysian movie. Suddenly in the background you have this aria, so I discussed that. I didn't know it was Czech, so based on your comments I wrote Czech. So it makes it look like I'm the expert. So otherwise I would just say, some strange opera sounds. Yeah. So I guess that's it. Are there any questions about? This book is published by me. I have a company called Matahari Books. This is our 12th book. I always say our in the kind of Queen Elizabeth saying we, but it's actually just me. So this is the 12th book, and this is the 11th, which is Malaysia's first queer anthology. It's only sold in like 10 bookshops in Malaysia, because MPH now don't want to take it. And this is the 13th book by an academic named Farish Noor. It's about kind of hidden histories of Malaysia and Southeast Asia, and it's got sepia pictures and stuff. So that's just what I do now, publishing. Oh, yeah.
I want to ask.
See, so eager. Stand in front, bought the book, ask questions. That's great. Model student, and you're in NUS, so proud. Yes.
Was Mualaf screened in Indonesia?
Mualaf only screened in the festival, in the G-Fest.
So no censor.
No censor. Because the festivals there don't censor. Because the condition is that a festival will only screen a film uncut, which is the position of the Singapore Festival as well. But none of her films have been commercially released in Indonesia. Her films have only been commercially released in Malaysia, Singapore, and Muxin was released in France. So, but having said that, now a lot of different people are trying to get like a DVD box set going, which I think would be great. If it can come out in different countries. Someone in Singapore is planning that, someone in Australia is planning that, so this will be quite nice.
At first you mentioned the opera.
Yes.
And the reason why I mentioned it also was that the story of the opera is actually a love between a human and a non-human, which is sort of doomed in the end. It's just, but the thing is, I wasn't quite sure if she really knew that. She knew that. She put it there as sort of like another layer of information, or sort of like
foreshadow. Yeah, that's true. Do people normally ask more questions? Or I just
so do you expect any more books after this about Yasmin Ahmad?
not from me, but from other people, yeah. Because a few people have written theses or are writing theses about her. So yeah, you get to read a thesis, luckily. Yeah. So I think it's inevitable because, for example, we have so many P. Ramlee books, and I really think that next to P. Ramlee, I think Yasmin is the one person who had an impact, a major impact, cultural impact, not just the quality. I'm not talking about the quality of the films, but the kind of reactions it got. And I think inevitable that there will be books. Because someone told me in Australia, I think there are 3 people writing theses about her. And in Hong Kong, I know there's 1 because she emailed me. But whether these theses will be published as books, I don't know. But and this will be translated into Malay. But we're changing the cover. it's too bewildering. So the cover will look like a movie poster. So that people understand who he is.
Do you know why Monte Carlo is set in Singapore?
You know what?
Why Monte Carlo, right? The other film that is not yet set in Singapore?
Because it's inspired by an actual karaoke bar in Singapore called Monte Carlo. It's not about Monte Carlo, the town. It's so she once went to this, what she called this crap karaoke bar in Singapore called Monte Carlo, which is very working class. and it was more the atmosphere.
Yes. You mentioned that her films elicit a lot of reaction in Malaysia, and of course some of it is like from the government or people who want to censor certain lines and all. But what do you think is the general sort of average person if reactions to the films have only been released there and here largely?
I think that you have, well, her films, none of them had really massive audiences except for Mohsin. They had, because the average film of hers would gross $500,000 ringgit, which is, by Malay movie standards, is considered a flop. Because a hit Malay movie would make 2 million. So it had a more urban kind of, but having said that, it had a more multiracial kind of audience. So even though the percentage of people who watch smaller nationwide, but in this percentage you have a much bigger range of races, educational background and so on. So I think people who continue to follow, obviously they got something out of it. They found it. If you are young, you think it's refreshing because it's different and it's more true, or it has a certain idealism to it, a certain romance to it that is not cringeworthy, you don't feel embarrassed to watch. And if you're older, I think in some cases it reminded people of where society used to be more easygoing and more tolerant in the 50s and 60s and so on. So she had these two different layers of at least these two different layers of audience support. Yeah. So it would have been interesting to see if it had really grown. Because one unfortunate thing also is that Sepet polarized so many people that after that it became, if you liked it, you will watch everything else. If you hate it, you will ignore everything else. So he had this kind of, it's a shame that it became this polarizing kind of force. With the exception was Mohsin, which I think is the only film of us that really managed to get people who would not otherwise watch, they would watch.
Citizen Kane was also a flop.
Yes, yes, true. But I prefer his other films actually. What was that? Mr. Arcadian, things like that. F for Fate, that's my favorite. And one thing interesting about her is that she always maintained the same crew. When the show, there's a consistency of production. So, you done?
If you don't have any more questions, you can come up to Amir here and you can ask him yourself.
Yes, yes, that was fine.
If you're like a shy one. But just go ahead and get him to sign your books and help yourself to the refreshments and yeah, just enjoy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.